Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a normal Pendulum deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys, because this deck is a really awesome budget deck that basically plays a bunch of normal Pendulum monsters that give all of your Pendulum monsters, when you summon them to your side of the fields, really awesome buffs. From being able to pop cards on your opponent's side of the field, searching other normal Pendulum monsters from the deck, and even being tuner monsters to summon out some really insane boss monsters like Nirvana High Paladin. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name scripted in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dragoons of Draconia. Dragoons of Draconia is a really good card for this deck. We basically just have to read the Pendulum effects, because none of them actually have monster effects. They're all just flavor text. So what this card does is once per turn, if a normal monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, you can add 1 level 4 or higher normal monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect just to give you a search, because it can search your scales that you might need to be able to add from your deck to your hand and just get you some really good plays going. We then play 3 copies of Sky Dragoons of Draconia. Sky Dragoons is really good because it has the ability to once per turn, when a normal monster you control inflicts damage to your opponent, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. We then play 3 copies of Sea Dragoons of Draconia. This card is a really good card in the deck too, because it has the ability that when a monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a normal monster from your hand, which can help you inflict additional damage to your opponent and just get you additional monsters on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Land. Land lets your monsters have piercing damage that are normal monsters, which is a very good effect just to give you that additional damage against your opponent. Is just super helpful. It really helps out with monsters that have really high attack points, just give you additional piercing damage, and it's just an overall great card. We then play 3 copies of Dragon Horn Hunter. Dragon Horn Hunter has the ability that all normal monsters gain 200 additional attack points, and you take no battle damage from battles involving your normal monsters you currently control, which is really good to be able to just activate this card and be able to have a low scale that can special summon out your monsters to your side of the field, being with your Pendulum summons, and then they just go back to the extra deck without you taking any damage when your opponent pushes through them, giving you the ability to just re-special summon them onto your side of the field during the next turn, which is just really, really good. We play 3 copies of Flash Knight. This card is the embodiment of normal Pendulum. This card has no effect in its Pendulum scale and has no effect as a monster. This card is just a scale 7, which is really good just to have some other scales in the deck, which is just really good to have those higher scales as well. We then play 3 copies of Master Pendulum, the Draco Slayer. This card is one of the highest attack point normal monsters in the entire game, and especially as a normal Pendulum monster in the regards of it being a level 4, and has a really good Pendulum effect that once per turn, when this card is in your Pendulum zone, you can target 1 card in the other Pendulum zone and destroy it, which will put it into the extra deck and let you fix your Pendulum scales if you need to. So this card is a really good card just to help you kind of tag in and out those buffs that you might want, and put cards in the extra deck so you can then Pendulum summon them out. So this card is a very good 3 of in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Cannon. Cannon is pretty good as well, because this card has the ability to let you once per turn during the end phase, if this card was activated this turn, you can target 1 face-up spell or trap on the field and destroy it. So this card can let you out a lot of cards that your opponent might have, and this card is just an overall good 2 of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Magical Libra. Magical Libra is a tuner monster that's also a level 4, giving us access to all sorts of different synchro monsters in the extra deck. It has the ability that you can declare a level between 1 and 6, and then target 2 face-up monsters you control, and until the end phase of the turn, reduce the level of one of those monsters by the declared amount, and if you do, increase the other monster by the same amount, even if this card leaves the field, which can give us some really, really insane synchro plays in the deck, and gives us access to cards like Nirvana High Paladin, where you can actually fix the scales on your side of the field to be able to help you, or fix the monsters' levels on your side of the field to be able to go into some really, really good synchro plays. And I have to give a quick shout out to Izzy, because Izzy's actually the one that showed me this really awesome tech. So thank you, Izzy, for showing me this card. It's really awesome in this deck, and I can't get over the amount of synchro plays you can actually go into normal Pendulum with this card. So Magical Libra is a really, really good 3 of in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Hallow Hallow. Hallow Hallow is another tuner monster, which is just a really good card to play 3 of. I love this card in this deck. It It has the ability to once per turn target a face-up monster on your field and roll a 6-sided die, and then that monster's level becomes the same as the result until the end of the turn. So this card can help you out sometimes with synchro plays. It can also help you out sometimes with just changing levels. So it's a really good card in the deck to just play as a 3-of to be an additional tuner monster because it is a level 3 monster. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. You play a lot of 3-ofs in this deck, I will say. So, for the spells, we're going to be playing 2 copies of our Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. This card is a awesome card in the deck, and what it does is all non-effect monsters on the field are unaffected by effect monsters or effects at all. So this is a really, really good card to be able to activate to protect your monsters from effect monsters, and it also has the ability to once per turn, if your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control a face-down monster or a non-effect monster, you get to draw 2 cards, which is a really good effect just to give us those additional draw power in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Summoner's Art. Summoner's Art lets us add any level 5 or higher null monster from our deck to our hand, which we play a lot of level 5 or higher null monsters. So this card can get you the exact scale you need. It can also get you the exact monster that you want for a buff. This card is just a really good card to be able to just activate on your side of the field and grab any Pendulum monster that you want from the deck, because this card basically says add any monster that's level 5 or higher from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Heart of the Underdog. Heart of the Underdog is the embodiment of this entire deck. I love this card in this deck, and it is such a great card. What this card does is during your draw phase, if you draw a card that's a normal monster, you can reveal that card against your opponent or show them, and then you get to draw an additional card. And since it's still your draw phase, you keep drawing. So basically you draw until you hit a spell or a trap, and you play a lot of monsters in this deck. So you can draw out a lot of cards and then just pendulum summon a bunch of cards onto your side of the field. So this card is a fantastic 3-of in this deck that I absolutely love. And it's one of the big reasons I actually play this in the deck is because you have such draw capabilities with this card. Now the updated text says that during your draw phase, when you draw a normal monsters, you can reveal it and then draw 1 more card. And it just keeps stacking until you finally hit a spell or a trap, which is just really, really good. So that's it for the spells. Let's get into the traps, because we actually play 3 traps in the deck, and it is going to be 3 copies of Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. So this card is an insane card. It has the ability that when your opponent activates a spell trap or monster effect, while you control a face-up non-effect monster, negate the activation and then destroy that card, or just negate the activation, which is really good to just be able to stop your opponent from activating spells, traps, or monster effects. Is just a great thing to give this deck a little bit of utility with a counter trap that basically says no to anything, which is really good because it's a speed spell 3, because it can negate anything except for a speed spell 4, like a super polymerization or something like that, where it says, hey, your opponent can't activate or nobody can respond to this. So this card is a really good card to stop basically anything in the game, and it has a really insane added effect that if this card is destroyed on your side of the field by an opponent's card effect, then you can special summon a non-effect monster from your extra deck, which you guys will see the insane tech card that you can actually summon in this extra deck. So that's it for all of the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Nirvana High Paladin. This card is extremely easy to summon in this deck. It's a really good boss monster as well, because it has the Pendulum effect that if a Pendulum monster you control attacks for battle, it cannot be destroyed by battle, and also you take no battle damage from it. And at the end of the damage step, if a Pendulum monster you control attacked, all monster your opponent control currently lose attack equal to the attacking monster's attack until the end of the turn. Now you might be wondering, how's this card going to get in the Pendulum zone? Well, we'll actually get into that in the effect part of this monster's effect when it's in the monster zone and not in the Pendulum zone. So let's go over that effect really quick. This card actually requires a tuner plus a non-tuner synchro monster to synchro summon this card, which is not that big of a deal in this deck. You have cards like Magical Libra that can actually alter the levels of cards. So it's actually pretty easy to summon this card from the extra deck. And it has the ability that for this card's synchro summon, you can treat a Pendulum summoned Pendulum monster you control as a tuner monster. So you can treat any of your Pendulum monsters that are Pendulum summoned to your side of the field as tuner monsters, which makes this card extremely easy to summon because you have all sorts of different levels to synchro into. It also has the ability that if this Synchro Summon card using a monster you control as a tuner monster, if this Synchro Summon card using a Pendulum monster has the ability to be able to target one card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is a really good effect just to be able to add cards back from the graveyard to your hand. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can just half the opponent's life points, which is just an insane effect. It also has the ability, if this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can place this card in your Pendulum scale, which is really good just to give you another level 8 Pendulum scale, which is really a high scale and that great effect. So, for the other cards, we're playing a single copy of Ravenous Croco Dragon, because this card is really good with Heart of the Underdog, because you can actually summon this card, and it has a really good effect that if this card is Synchro Summoned, you can draw cards equal to the number of non-tuners, and the quick effect, you can discard 2 cards to target a card on the field and destroy it, but it also gains 500 attack for every card in your hand, which is an insanely powerful effect to be able to activate with your Heart of the Underdog, because this card can get really big really quick. We then play a single copy of Borreload Savage just to give us additional negations. 1 copy of Draco Berserkers of the Tenyi. This card is very easy to summon in this deck and just gives you the ability to basically banish effect monsters when they activate their effects, and it gets really big. 1 copy of Ignister. This card is really good, the Draco Slayer. This card is really good because it bounces cards off the field, which is really insane because it has the ability to once per turn target a Pendulum monster on the field or 1 card in the Pendulum zone, destroy it, and if you do, shuffle any card on the field into the deck, which is a great effect just to be able to pop and banish or pop and spin stuff. This card is fantastic. 1 copy of Scrap Archfiend. This card is just a normal monster, so it works with a lot of cards in the deck, like your copies of your field spell, the Tenyi field spell, and it's just an overall great card in the deck. 1 copy of Metaphys Horus. This card is really good in the deck, and it's insanely powerful. It's very easy to summon, and it gains different effects depending on what you use to summon it. If this card is Synchro Summon, you activate the appropriate effects depending on the non-tuner monster used for this card to summon. If it's a normal monster, then this face-up card is unaffected by other cards that effects this turn. If it's an effect monster, you can target 1 other face-up card on the field and negate that target's effects, which is not ever going to happen because you're only ever going to summon it with like the Hollow or the copies of the Magical Libra. But it also has the ability to use a Pendulum monster, which is always, you can choose a card, you can use a monster that your opponent controls, and your opponent has to give control of that monster to you, which is really good because basically you can link summon at that point into all sorts of really good link monsters. So this card is like a really good boss monster for the deck. We then play a sim copy of Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax. This card is very easy to summon in the deck because all you have to do is summon this card out by using 2 monsters that were special summoned from the X deck. So it's a very easy card to summon, especially with those link arrows. 1 copy of Appaloosa to give you additional negates, which is just a really good card to summon to your side of the field for the arrows, and it's really easy to summon out 4 cards to your side of the field to summon this card. 1 copy of Draco Masters of the Tenyi, which is pretty much the boss monster of the deck. It's really easy to summon. It gives you all sorts of pops. I did consider actually playing 2 of this in the deck because it's so easy to summon. We play a single copy of Unicorn. Unicorn is fantastic in the deck because it spins stuff. 1 copy of Needle Fiber because you can actually summon Needle Fiber extremely easily and climb into your copy of your Draco Masters of the Tenyi really fast. 1 copy of IP Masquerena because it can let you link summon during your opponent's turn. 1 copy of Link Spider, and you guys might be wondering, where's that card that you mentioned? What is the card that you summon off of the copies of the Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi? Well, it's actually going to be Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. For anybody who's ever played Tenyi, you saw this coming. This card is an insanely powerful card. It's the highest attack point normal monster that you can summon from the extra deck, and it's a fantastic card and a fantastic target for your copy of the Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. So this card is extremely easy to summon off that card, and it's basically a Waking the Dragon's target, but in the form of Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. It works with our field spell. It works with all of our monsters that say normal monster on them to give it all the buffs, which is insane because this card never had an effect. And it pretty much gives it piercing. It can get piercing damage. It can get attack boosts. It can get you searches. It can pop cards. This card is just an insane card once you summon it. And if you have the field spell on your side of the field, it becomes unaffected by the effect monster's effects. And then if you have multiple copies of this, you can actually protect it. So this card is really insane, and it's hilarious when you summon this card to your side of the field. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play around with. It's very, very budget. You don't have to play all of these link monsters that I played in the extra deck. You can change it up a little bit if you want to. Basically, you're just looking for link monsters that point down, like your copies of the Draco Masters or the Tenyi, so you can pendulum summon to the zones from the extra deck, which is really what the deck is trying to do. The synchro monsters can kind of be interchanged out. If you don't want to play Borreload Savage, you can change it out for a copy of Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, which would be another budget alternative for you guys, and you can kind of change it up for the different levels. As long as you're kind of staying with the levels of the monsters, you can kind of change it up, which is totally fine. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit that bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely tell what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.